Sorry, my voice was cut off. So, welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about a very unusual development in which the United States has given India permission. And then let me state that again. Thank you, Sharad, for pointing out about my voice. Uh, the US has given India permission to buy Russian oil for just 1 month with more and more preconditions attached to it and limitations. But the very fact that the US is giving permission to India has created a lot of uproar in the international as well as particularly in the Indian strategic community, because this is being seen as India behaving as if it is a vassal state of the United States, and India does not have the strategic autonomy that it uh, brags about all the time, that look, we are a great power, we are the Vishwaguru, we are the world's rising power, we are the world's fourth biggest economy. All these talking points of India about its own greatness are being questioned because India is now being seen as a vassal state that needs permission from the United States, from whom they can buy oil and whom they cannot buy oil. So if you remember that Donald Trump had imposed 25% additional tariffs on India for buying Russian oil, and then after India signaled very clearly that they are reducing it and completely stopping buying Russian oil and diversifying to buying American oil and going back to the Gulf to such an extent that now 80% of India's energy needs comes really from the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz. So this is a major development, and I want to highlight this because this is one of the reasons why Modi went to Tel Aviv, in the hope that the road to Washington now goes for Modi through Israel. So this entire sucking up that he did to the Israeli government and Netanyahu while he was in Israel, completely ignoring India's commitments, past and present, to the Palestinians, to the two-state solutions, and completely ignoring the reality of the genocide of Gaza with absolutely not a single message. So in that context, this humiliation of India, it needs to be highlighted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to essentially first play the video of Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. Look at the way he's talking. I want you to look at the arrogance, and deservedly so. India is literally dancing to American tunes. If you remember that Epstein email in which Epstein says that Modi went all the way to Israel in 2017 to sing and dance to please the American president, which was Donald Trump at that time. So in 2017, the first time that Modi went to Israel was also during Trump's presidency, and the second time also during Trump's presidency, in the hope that he can make Trump happier by saying that, look, I'm singing and dancing to entertain Netanyahu. So here's this video from Scott Bessent.
Allies in India start buying Russian oil that was already on the water. The Indians had been very good actors. We had asked them to stop buying sanctioned Russian oil this fall. They did. They were going to substitute it with U.S. oil. But to ease the temporary gap of oil around the world, we have given them permission to accept the Russian oil. We may unsanction other Russian oil. You know, the other thing Treasury can do here, Larry, is there are hundreds of millions of sanctioned barrels of sanctioned crude on the water, and in essence, by unsanctioning them, Treasury can create supply. And you know, we are looking at that. We're going to keep a cadence of announcing measures to bring relief to the market during this conflict. And Larry, I'm sure you agree with me that in our investment careers, the best investment you made was looking to the other side. And the other side here is that once this is over, then oil prices are going to be sustainably lower. And
so this is what Scott Bessent is talking. So the US is very concerned about the rise of oil prices. As a result of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's attacks on Saudi refinery, Iran's attack on Qatar's oil and natural gas facilities. And as a result of that, Qatar has completely stopped its natural gas production. Qatar produces about 20 to 25% of the global global natural gas. And so what has happened as a result of that is the price of oil. Let me share that with you. So this is the price of oil, crude oil. So this is for the last 1 month. So about a month ago, if you look at February 12th, February 23rd, February 26th, it was around $65 per barrel. This was the price of oil in on February 26th. The war started on February 28th. So this is where we are. This is on February 25th is when Modi went to Israel, and you can see it was around 64, 65. And look at the steep hike. Today, this morning, I took this morning about maybe an hour ago, it was $91.27. So it's gone from 65 to 91. So this is a steep hike in oil prices. It is going to hurt a lot of countries which do not have deep reserves. Even India has just a few weeks of reserves that it can deploy into the market if it wishes to reduce the prices at the pump. So now countries are faced with the dilemma: either they let this price go to the pumps, where people will suddenly be paying more oil, more money for petrol and gas and everything else, and that usually translates into some kind of, shall we say, political unhappiness and instability, or the countries will have to absorb this by providing a subsidy, and that puts a lot of stress on the budget. So anyway, this is going to be stressing the economy. In the United States, the gas prices across the board have gone up by 32 cents. I think so. If it is $3, then it went to $3.30, roughly 10% increase in prices. Already, people in America have been feeling the inflation on some of these issues. While overall inflation has not really gone up significantly, it's from 2.9 to 2.7 something overall, and Trump has struggled to keep it down, especially by allowing production of petrol, etc., oil and gas from places where Biden had stopped. I just published an article on the impact of the war, calling the energy shock, US-Israel war with Iran's impact on Indian, Chinese, and global economies. So I will share a link to that during the discussion soon. So please go and review this article. I wrote that, co-authored that with a very prominent Indian economist who was head of Indian Planning Commission, etc., Dr. Santosh Mehrotra. So the two of us had a dialogue about it on my show, and then we wrote this article. So you should go and take a look at that article, and I will also share a link to that article. So what is happening is that one of the criticism of the war in the United States is that this is going to really hurt the energy market. And if the price of gas goes up, then it definitely hits hard at every aspect of the economy, because of gases. It will affect, even milk will go up, prices of milk will go up, bread will go up, basic essential things will go up, because they need to be transported from wherever they are produced to the marketplace. And so if gas prices go up, nearly every aspect of the economy, it has an inflationary effect, very, very clearly. What do you mean no audio? Can you just confirm that you can hear me? There's somebody who's saying that there is no audio. Anyway, here is the link to that article. You can see that article that I wrote about the impact, especially on China and India. The impact is going to be very serious, because they depend heavily on this region for their energy supplies. Now, the point that India was making is this: the Trump administration, and this is the exact quote from these are articles that are coming out. Indians had been very good actors, got Besant on US permission to buy Russian oil. So everybody is putting the permission in, thank you very much, in quotation marks. And this is the quote So the Indians had been very good actors. I mean, it's like saying, "Oh my God, the kid has behaved very well. So let's give him a candy." The Indians had been very good actors. Said we had asked them to stop buying sanctioned Russian oil this fall. They did. The Indian government has struggled to answer this question directly. They were going to substitute it with US oil, but to ease the temporary gap of oil around the world, we have given them permission to accept the Russian oil. We may unsanction other Russian oil. So this is the quote from Besant, but let me also show you, they actually have issued a license to India. So look at this. This is the Department of the Treasury. This is what Scott Besant has. General License number 133, and said authorizing the delivery and sale of crude oil and petroleum products of Russian Federation origin loaded on vessels as of March 5th, 2026 to India. So this is a special license issued to India by America, as if it's, can you imagine, it's like if you want to ride a motorbike in India, you have to go to the government to get permission to ride. It's like getting a license. So that is what the US is behaving as if it is India's government. Does India need a license to have relations with Russia? Yes, India needs a license to have relations with Russia because India has now become a vassal state of the United States. It is afraid to stand up. Let's watch this thing. This is about a day since it has already happened in India. You can go back and see Indian media is all about this whole issue of Russia. There are some people who are actually pretending it is some kind of an achievement of Prime Minister Modi that India got 30 days permission to buy Russian oil. Look, this whole idea that India has strategic autonomy has been thrown out of the window. India does not have strategic autonomy. India is so dependent. India is afraid to challenge the United States, afraid to respond. We will see how India responds to it. If India says, "Oh, we buy oil based on our strategic necessities and market value," then why do you need this license? Just throw it. Say, "We don't need this license. We'll buy whatever oil we want." And they're being very specific right now. They're saying only the oil that has been loaded after March 5th and which is on the waters right now. So oil, Russian oil, which is on the sea that India can buy, they can't go and order for next month and month after that, etc. That's what they're trying to do. So it is quite humiliating, I think, to the Indian government, which was also forced to go to Tel Aviv and say wonderful things about Netanyahu, where again India was made a fool of because they gave a fake medal to Modi. There is no such medal. Go back and look at it. Now there are two Wikipedia pages. One Wikipedia page which talks about Presidential Medal of Honor, which Israel gives. They started giving it, I think, in the 1980s. And so you can go and see Obama won it, Biden won it, Trump won it. I think Bill Clinton also got that medal. So you can see the list of winners historically of the Israeli Presidential Medal of Honor. But Modi, the award that he got was the Knesset Speaker's Medal. There is no such thing. They invented it just to give it to Modi to make it look as if he's being, and I don't think no one else is also going to get it. So if you go and look at the Wikipedia page of the Knesset Medal of Honor, you will find that only Modi has received it. Of course, in India, they will think this is something great because they have created a special award for Modi. No, they're just treating India as something, they're looking down upon India and treating it as if, oh, if we give Modi a medal, we can determine India's foreign policy. So much for strategic autonomy. If we give India a medal, then India will change its foreign policy and become more pro-Israel. And so this is the Israeli assumption. And the Americans are now being so arrogant about it. I find it stunning that Scott Bessent will not talk like that about Israel. And Trump has absolutely no respect for the Europeans. So I will not be surprised if the rest of the people in the Trump administration will also be in the same way humiliating about the Europeans. But they dare not talk about China like this. And in fact, if you notice that only India was imposed the additional 25% taxes for buying Russian oil. China is a bigger buyer of Russian oil. China is a bigger buyer of Iranian oil. And it did not stop. In 2017 or 19, when Trump issued sanctions against Iran, India was a major purchaser of Iranian oil. India immediately stopped buying Iranian oil. And then in this term, when Trump said that anybody who has any dealings with Iran, including the Chabahar port, I will impose sanctions, India ran away again. And now India completely gave up the Chabahar port in Iran. So India has basically bent the knee to the United States at every turn, unlike the Chinese, who never stopped buying Iranian oil. In fact, 90% of Iran's oil, which is heavily discounted. So Iran sells about 38, $35 billion worth of oil every year. 90% of it, or over $30 billion worth of it, is bought by China at a discounted prices. So if they bought the same amount of oil elsewhere, it would cost them something like $40 billion, but they are getting it at a highly discounted price from Iran. But Iran also has a stable market. No one else, like India, chickened out, didn't have the guts to buy Iranian oil after Trump threatened sanctions. So the world is so different. The way Donald Trump and the U.S. treat India is not the way they treat China. So this assumption that India is an equal great power in a multipolar world is a pipe dream. It's not like that. They're treating India as a vassal state, subordinate to its needs and stuff. India is going to have further problems. It's not over yet. So what I'm going to show you now is the Indian rupee. So this is for the last 1 month. So Indian rupee went from 90.5 before the war, and then it spiked, and it's now here at 91.94. I think that when it reached 92, the RBI made an intervention into the market, currency markets, and tried to bring back down. So now what happens? And let me explain this logic. We have done that in a very long interview with Santosh Mehrotra. I've done that in that article also. But this is what happens. If you're buying oil, and oil is bought in dollars, so what happens if the price of oil goes up? So let us say you're buying 10 barrels every day. So 10 barrels will cost you now, it used to cost you $67, $670. Now the same 10 barrels are going to cost you 920 or 915 dollars. So suddenly, for the same amount of oil, instead of paying $670, you're paying 920. You're paying $300 more. So where are these dollars coming? You will go and buy dollars from the currency market, and then go to the oil market and make the payment in dollars. So you suddenly are buying 50% more dollars. So instead of buying $670, you're buying 920. So the demand for dollar goes up. And because the demand for dollar goes up, the value of dollar goes up, and the value of your currency goes down. So this is what has happened to India. And this could increase more unless the Indian government, which has about 600 or 700 billion dollars in reserves, decides to use its reserves. Then the price of Indian rupee may stabilize at 91.5. But if the Indian government decides not to use up its reserves to pay extra money for the oil and energy that it is purchasing, then the dollar's value will go up and the Indian rupee will begin to go down. And India, remember, is a net importer, which means India imports more than it exports. So it's going to hurt the Indian economy more because all the exports are going to be paid for in foreign currency. It is just rubbish that people talk about India using rupee to buy. It's just talk. There's no real figures. Go and look at the statistics. I went and looked at it. And even China, which is using a lot of its own currency for mini trade, is less than 4 or 5% of the global transactions that happen. Most of the transactions that happen are either in US dollars, which is still around 60%, or in euro, which is over 20%. So 80% of all transactions happen in dollars and euros, and whatever is left is divided between the British pound, the Japanese yen, and then yuan. Is the RMB is the third biggest, I think, after dollar and pound, after dollar and euro, in alternative currencies. So this is going to have a huge impact. So unfortunately for India, if I was Russia now, I would not give the same discount, because why does Russia need to give discount? India has no alternative. Either they buy a very expensive oil from the US or go for Russia. So as long as Russia can keep its prices below the US, then I think they don't need to give the massive discount that they were giving to India before India stopped buying Russian oil at the behest. So this is as far as India is concerned, but I want to also give you some more of an update on what's happening with the war in the region. There are some interesting developments. One interesting development is that the president of Iran has apologized to his neighboring countries for attacking them. And then he says that in future, we will only attack those countries from whom attacks are coming. So if the US bases are firing any missiles or rockets at Iran, only then will Iran, at least this is what the president is saying. But even as the president of Iran was apologizing, the IRGC, which controls the ballistic missiles of Iran and its entire stockpile, was still shooting rockets and drones at the Dubai airport, even as the president of Iran. So, because of the whole command and control infrastructure has been destroyed by US and Israel by targeting many of its leaders, I don't think that there is the orders are going from top to bottom. There is a lot of autonomy and, shall we say, no control over some of these IRGC units. And so the field commanders are the ones who are taking military decisions, which is kind of scary, very scary, that the military commanders are going to be taking decisions and shooting around. I also wanted to point out that there are secret negotiations, or well, they can't be secret if I'm telling you that, but there are negotiations going on between Saudi Arabia and Iran. So they are trying to negotiate to create either number one, to create some kind of a humanitarian corridor. I don't know what that humanitarian corridor is for, in exchange for no more targeting of energy infrastructure. So Iran will abstain from hitting oil and natural gas fields and refineries. And in exchange for that, it's going to get some kind of humanitarian corridor. Now, I don't know where that humanitarian corridor is going to be. Is it going to bring in supplies to Iran? Or is it going to allow oil flowing out of Iran? I could not fully comprehend what the deal is. Apparently, while the discussions are directly between Iranians and the Saudis, obviously the Arabs don't do anything without the permission of Israel and the US anymore. So they are also keeping Israel and US posted about this dialogue. So it is very interesting that the Arab countries are reaching out to have a dialogue with Iran. Now, the reason for that is that the Arab countries have felt betrayed by the United States. And this is a lesson for the Kurds who think that they can join the war against the Iranian government at the behest of the United States. In 1992, also, the United States encouraged the Kurds to attack Saddam Hussein. And one of the hallmarks of the Muslim world is stupidity of the leaders. And so the Kurds joined the war, trusting the Americans, and then the Americans abandoned them. And then Saddam Hussein, who survived the war, the first Gulf War, went ahead and gassed thousands and thousands of Kurds. And it looks like the Kurds are going to make the same mistake again here. And they are trusting Donald Trump and Netanyahu. Wow. How mentally retarded and dumb and stupid you have to be to do that. We will see whether they follow through or not. But right now there are major dialogue, major negotiations going on with Kurds for them to enter the war. America wants anybody and everybody to attack Iraq. So the Germans are making overtures. The British have sent an aircraft carrier, I think, and so has the French. They are sending some kind of nominal troops, etc. Also, they're not going to engage in the battle, but they are going to pretend as if they are also part of the attack on Iran. Because there are no consequences to attacking Iran. It is very weak. I'm going to do an analysis tonight of Iran's economy and its military infrastructure to give you an idea of how the Iranian economy is about $350 billion. It's like Pakistan's economy. It is poorer than Bangladesh when it comes to the total GDP. It is 1% of the US economy. So the Iranians are at $350 billion. The US is about $33 trillion. Can you imagine that? If there were 10 Irans, it would be 3.5 trillion. And if there are 100 Irans, it would be equal to one US economy. So the Iranian economy is roughly half of the Israeli economy and 1% of the US economy. And remember that while per capita GDP, PPP, purchasing power parity, you can make those adjustments when it comes to bread and eggs and rice, etc. But if you're heavily dependent on imports, then the purchasing power parity becomes irrelevant and useless. So if you're buying weapons, if you're buying medicines, if you're buying lots of stuff from outside, then the purchasing power parity is of no use at all. Making adjustment based on PPP does not say that you have a lot more to say. Yes, you will. The salary that you pay your soldiers will be much less because you're not paying them in dollars, you're paying them in local currency. So yes, you do have some advantage if they are purchasing power parity, which makes Iran's economy at roughly $2 trillion. So, so for the whole world to literally all of European countries, all of Middle Eastern countries, all United States and Israel are all aligned against Iran, this country of roughly less than $400 billion per capita income. It has no defense at all. It has absolutely zero air defense system. We saw that in the 12-day war. We saw prior to that. And its inability to even shoot at any of the aircrafts, etc. That's one of the reasons why I think the Trump administration has felt emboldened to attack Iran, is because they realize that the possibility of casualties are very, very low, because Iran has some offensive capabilities but very little defensive capabilities. I really don't understand this logic at all. Most of these Middle Eastern countries seem to just focus on getting one or two offensive capabilities, like Hamas, for example. It did not build any defense infrastructure for the population of Gaza. And the same is true with Hezbollah. Hezbollah has rockets to shoot at Israel, but nothing to defend its own people with. And the same weakness you see with the Houthis, and you see the same thing with the Iranians, whereas the Israelis have spent billions and billions of dollars on developing a missile defense system, as well as bomb shelters for literally their entire population. That's why they have so few fatalities in this war. So anyway, those are strategic issues that are highlighted from by this particular war. But Donald Trump's goals, as usual, are shifting. First, he wanted to eliminate the ballistic missile and nuclear capabilities of Iran, and then he now is talking about regime change, and now he wants an unconditional surrender from Iran. So it is very clear that there is no endgame scenario well planned, and there is no strategy as such, except for tactical purposes, which they are winning because of overwhelming balance of power is in the favor. I mean, between Israel and the United States, they are able to put up 350 planes at a given time, and thousands of bombs are being dropped on Iran. So this is an interesting lesson about power projection. There is no other country in the world that can project power like this, thousands and thousands of miles away. And for those of people who like to say America is losing its capacity, I would love to see India do this, to go and bomb a country thousands of miles away on a daily basis. The economy will go down, and they won't. I don't think it can do it. Nobody else can do this. I don't think even China can project power like this. The Russians have been attacking Ukraine for 4 years, but they never were able to establish the air dominance that the US and Israel have done over Iran. Russia has never established air dominance over Ukraine to that same extent. Many of Su-57 fifth generation fighter jets have been shot down by Ukraine. Of course, Ukraine is getting tremendous military and financial support from the West. That's why it's able to survive. But the point that I'm trying to make is that even Russia can't project power like this, sustained power, with such overwhelming power as so far away from its own shores. So these are some of the things about the war that I wanted to give you an update about. There is no negotiations going on. There is some discussions going on about ceasefire with Iran, but they are very preliminary. They are in the context of the Arab outreach to the Iranians. But let me tell you that we should not take what the Arabs are doing or saying seriously. Nobody does. They lobbied very hard with the United States not to attack Iran because they feared that they would themselves become targets in Iranians' response. And now, after the war has begun, they have been appealing to America to essentially protect them, and they have got no protection. In fact, none of these, except Israel, no one is being protected by the US. And that is an interesting lesson, but I guarantee you that the Middle Eastern countries are not going to learn anything from this. They didn't learn anything from Gulf War I. They did not learn anything from Gulf War II, from the US invasion of Iraq, which led to complete chaos. And that's probably the most likely scenario, if the US continues this war for more than a week, is that Iran will become something like what Iraq had become. And the amount of extremism and terrorist groups that are going to come out of Iran, just the thought of that scared the shit out of me. Okay, I've lived through post 9/11 world. I have no desire to leave after that. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching Conversations. Yeah, in Dallas it's 3.2. It's 3.33 across the country, other Bashir average, $3.32. So thank you for watching Conversations. Please like this video, press the bell icon, and share it with the rest of your social political network. I will take some of your questions and comments now, but before that, I wanted to share with those who are members of Conversations or those who want to become members today that tomorrow I'm going to be having a conference. And if you go to my YouTube channel or any YouTube channel, you will see things like this: homes, videos, shorts, live, playlists, and then posts. So click posts. If you are a member, you will see members only posts, and then you will get the Zoom link to the conference that we are having tomorrow, where we will talk about my visit to India and my visit to Sri Lanka. We will talk about the war, obviously. And if you have any questions or if you have comments, you can get to meet other members of Conversations. They come from all over the world. I have people from here in the US, from Hong Kong, from India, many very diverse crowd from India too. So please remember to join in this meeting tomorrow. And now let's turn to your questions and comments, if there are any. Let us see. Yeah, sorry for somehow I managed to press mute in the beginning, so the first few seconds you could not hear me. I apologize for that. Do you know why US is behaving like this, humiliating India or Modi? So because India has been talking big, lot big. Dr. Jaishankar talks as if India is a superpower in the world, and they go around bragging about everything. For example, let me give you an idea. India has been bragging that it is the fourth biggest economy. India never became the fourth biggest economy. Go back and Google it. I'm going to do a show next week where I'm going to show that after IMF gave India a C for its data and pressured India to update its benchmarks, India has done that. India was comparing its data to 2012. Then they finally decided to use 2022 as a benchmark. And guess what? India is not even a $4 trillion economy. It's a $3.9 trillion economy, just like three Irans. Three Turkeys or something like that, with a population of 1.5. India's GDP per capita has also gone down by the new calculations. It is not just $2,400. So this whole goal of Viksit Bharat, $5 trillion economy, looks further away. On top of that, rupees value is going down, which means that when you calculate GDP first in rupees, and then when you translate it dollars, it becomes even less. So let's say that India's GDP per capita is 300, the total GDP is 300 rupees. So that translates to about 3.2 or $3.3, because dollar is about 92 rupees. Now, if dollar becomes 100, even though India's GDP remains 300 rupees, it'll become $3 from $3.2. So while India was saying that we are $4.2 trillion economy, slightly more than Japan's, and therefore we are number four after US, China, and Germany, all that is proven wrong because right now India's GDP is less than four, it's $3.9 trillion. So India has been bragging a lot and it's been irritating people quite a bit. And then this whole promotion of Modi hai to mumkin hai, Modi magic, all this is such a rubbish. I used to say jokingly, if you translate Modi and make him the prime minister of Bangladesh or New Zealand, do you think those economies will suddenly boom? No, obviously not. So America got tired of India taking advantage of America, especially on tariffs, on technology, etc., and then bragging that America is declining and America is nothing. So I think people in this administration are very irritated. Plus, you know, people come here and tell me when I say something critical about America, they come here and tell me, so why are you living in America? I'm an American citizen. I care about my country. That's why I'm critical of it, which is very difficult for people in India to understand, where the democratic culture is being eroded rapidly by Modi's government. So you're forgetting what it means to be a free thinking individual in a democracy. So so I think that even the arrogance of Indians here in the West has also irritated people. So there's a growing anger towards India and the Indian community because Modi weaponized the diaspora. So he came here and had Howdy Modi meetings where 50,000 Indians showed up in the side. Why? If you want to become American, if you're applying for American citizenship, why are you loyal to another country who you just abandoned in its best period during Amrit Kal? So all these Indians who are running away to foreign countries and then going there and Modi is weaponizing them. So you want to come and become an American and then want to be loyal to India? That is something that is irritating a lot of MAGA crowd here. And so, for example, they are very upset that J.D. Vance married Usha Vance. They are also very critical of Ramaswamy. Vivek Ramaswamy has gradually faded away now from the American political sphere. Uh, and so that is why you are seeing all this hatred and anger. India needs to behave according to its capabilities and not brag about one thing and behave. Look, it is basically abandoned all humanitarian causes in the world. India only speaks for Israel these days and does not respond to anything from the US. Well, the US cannot talk about values anymore after supporting a genocide in Gaza, and a war criminal visits the White House whenever he chooses. He, uh, Netanyahu cannot go to any European country without getting arrested. But he can come to White House whenever he wants. And of course, Modi goes and hugs this war criminal. So much for Indian values, so much for Vasudeva Kutumbakam, etc. No era of war. How many wars has Netanyahu started in the last 2 years? Any other interesting questions? What I don't understand what the word decent means. What is a decent country? Have you seen the videos coming out on social media about how vulgar fashion in which Holi was being celebrated? Do decent countries celebrate? I was shocked by seeing all the horrible videos that are coming about exploitation of women's bodies using the excuse of Holi. That's not decent. The amount of rioting that you guys do during festivals, the lynching of mobs, the corruption. What decent country? This is rubbish. No, I don't know why you would say turn against America. I disagree with this foreign policy, period. And it is okay to do that. A majority of Americans are against it. All public opinion poll shows that Americans didn't want this war. 70% were against the war before the war started. Only 27% of Americans support this war. It doesn't mean they are anti American. See, this is something that Indians can't understand. That if you truly care about your country, then you should be critical of the government which does stupid shit. And Donald Trump is doing only stupid shit. I can't think of any sensible thing that he has done so far. The US prices have gone up by 32 cents. The oil prices in the US have gone up since the war started. That's why Scott Bessent is allowing India to buy Russian oil to reduce the global price of oil. Why didn't you stay back if it was doing wonderful things? No, all the currencies are not depreciated. The US dollar is increasing in its strength. I don't know what you're talking about. The US dollar is become stronger since the war started. Only those who are buying oil from the Gulf or from other countries, their currency is going to be depreciated because they're going to have to buy dollars to buy oil, more dollars to buy oil. I just explained how the price of oil directly impacts the price of currencies. See, this is very idiotic people. No, if the dollar drops from 88 to 92, then yes, India's GDP goes from 4.2 to 3.9. That's what I'm trying to say. If you can't wrap your mind around that, then I don't know what to say. Anyway, that was the last comment. And so thank you for watching Conversations. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon. For those of you who are cricket fans, tomorrow is the final of the T20 World Cup. India seems to be peaking just at the right time. So it should be a very interesting match. Unfortunately, no matter how often New Zealand does well, people still estimate. Apparently, the last 3 times New Zealand played India in T20 World Cups, New Zealand beat India. So they have like a 3-0 record in the last 3 matches. So, so this is going to be a very interesting. I think the toss is going to play a big role in this. So if India is batting second, it will have a great opportunity to easily chase it down. But we will see. Ultimately, it's who bowls well and who catches well will determine. The New Zealand openers have also come back into form just in time. Finn Allen, just like Sanju Samson. So anyway, it should be a wonderful game to watch. So everybody, thank you for watching Conversations. Like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your social political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtadar Khan. Take care.